You know, talk about weeds this time of year a lot, especially like we're on here Devil's Lake today, but a lot of these prairie dish bowl lakes, you know, weeds are really important. And you know, right now the water temperatures are in the low 60s. And one of the things that's happened this year, we've had so much wind. You see the wind blowing here behind me. We've had so many fronts. It's kept the water cooler than normal. And as a rule of thumb, like on Devil's Lake this year, you know, we didn't have any runoff and the temperatures have stayed cool. And so what that does, it clears the water up. Guess what happens then? The weeds grow more so. I mean, you'll see weeds like out on the east end of the lake where the water's probably the clearest, you know, you'll see weeds out to 10 feet, 12 feet in places. And so when you have that clear water that stays cool longer, it seems like the weeds are accelerated. You know, once we get warmed up, this water will get algae in it, and then that'll actually suppress some of the weed growth, at least in those deeper depths, you know, past 7 feet. And so thing to remember is that a lot of these walleyes are using weeds, and as the weeds come up, you know, it's almost like you have to relearn this every couple of days because these weeds are growing so fast, in the sense that you might be able to say in 8 feet of water, throw a number 5 rumble shad or a shad wrap, or, you know, maybe a 3/8 ounce jig and just barely tip the tops of those weeds. Come out here a week later and those weeds have come up 2 or 3 feet higher, and you might have to throw something even, you know, a shallow runner, you know, like a hit stick or a rumble shiner. And so you're adapting all the time as the summer progresses. So as these weeds come up, it seems like we're fishing higher in the water column to get over the tops of the weeds. So if there's one weed to look for, whether you're in eastern South Dakota or Devil's Lake or these prairie pothole lakes, it's a weed called Sago Pondweed, but it's a really stringy, grassy weed that grows up, you know, 7-8 feet tall in a lot of places. A lot of times you'll see little clusters or berries on the tips of the leaves, but Sago Pondweed is probably one of the better weeds, at least up in this area. There's parts of Devil's Lake, like out in Pelican, where there's some cabbage, you know, there's some sporadic cabbage in places, but the Sago Pondweed is pretty common, and it's just for whatever reason, it's a weed that the walleyes love. You'll also see milfoil, you'll see a handful of different types of weeds, but find that Sago Pondweed, and a lot of times that's where we're going to find walleyes. So when these weeds come up, you know, what are the top lures to throw? In my opinion, it's tough to beat shallow running crankbaits. Okay, some favorites are a rumble shiner, which is a small bill, you know, goes down maybe 2, 3, 4 feet at the most on a cast, depending on the size of the bait. Rapala countdown, and then a Berkley hit stick has been really good, but think shallow running baits that you can just twitch and slash, and a lot of times we're using braided line. The other thing to consider is just a jig with a wide gap hook, like a Northland MVP jig with just a big paddle tail, just like an Eye Candy Paddle Shad, or just something that's got some thump. But just think of a bigger profile. These fish can come up and gun down. These fish will shark these baits when they're in the weeds. I mean, these fish are typically pretty aggressive, and if you're looking for top baits, if you're looking for a variety of baits, if you've never fished Devil's Lake or a lot of these prairie lakes before, or maybe you don't have some of these shallow running baits, check out Shields. Not only a great selection, but they've got great shipping where he'll be in your door in a hurry.